What if I told you that Enshrouded was basically Valheim with Dark Souls combat? The crazy thing about this game is despite how beautiful it looks, everything is made of voxels, which means that the environment is fully destructible. You can terraform to your heart's content. But despite the Dark Souls influence, I feel like the combat just isn't really up to snuff yet. It's really interesting the first few times you end up fighting enemies, but this game very much focuses on either parrying or dealing with enemies from a range. The other defining difference between this and other survival games is that the world is set in stone. It's going to generate the exact same no matter who's playing. This does mean that there are a lot of pre-built structures that you can end up exploring, and that's really, really cool. But I think my major complaint with Enshrouded is it still feels very early access. I don't necessarily mean the mechanics don't feel fleshed out. I more so mean the fact that progression seems to have been slowed down to a crawl. Like you're looking at maybe 20 hours before you end up getting to the next biome. Another thing is that while exploring was really cool initially, and the world itself is extremely fleshed out with all sorts of secrets, I can't help myself but to try and play this game optimally. And the most efficient way of playing this game is to do fetch quests. You basically run over to this place, get this NPC, bring it back to your town, and then eventually down the line the NPC wants a crafting table that's over in another enemy camp. It's not that it's necessarily a bad game loop, it's just that travel time becomes very tedious. You do have a grappling hook, you do have a glider, but it doesn't help out that much. I will say that the dungeons feel very well fleshed out. Like there's all sorts of traps and usually a nice puzzle that you have to solve in order to unlock the towers that give you the big boy fast travel points. And all the while you're expanding your camp, which gives you access to more temporary fast travel points that you can place down anywhere. But to me, the strength of this game is the fact that the world is handcrafted. It's so cool to just stumble into a graveyard, notice that there's a sword in the ground, and then you start digging into the terrain and you find a chest where a grave should be. But that excitement soon goes away because so much of the loot that you find in this game is garbage when compared to the items that you can craft. Now, as far as the crafting is concerned, I hate it. It's one of those games that has like 50 different crafting tables, and eventually once you get to the mid-tier, you have to craft one resource into another resource into another resource. It's just a personal pet peeve of mine to have gameplay that isn't streamlined. And I can't help myself but to draw comparisons to Valheim, especially with the building. With the building in Valheim, you just have to have wood in your inventory and you can start building away. But in Enshrouded, there's a bunch of unnecessary extra steps where you have to craft it into the building block. Overall, I think I can still easily recommend this game, but go into it knowing that it's going to be a very difficult and slow pace if you're not playing it with friends. I think at the end of the day, my major complaint with Enshrouded is that you can't customize any of the settings unless you have a custom server. It would have gone a long way if I could crank up the amount of resources and XP I was getting so that I could explore the world faster rather than focusing on grinding.